Well, hello, and thank you so much for coming along and joining me on this Monday evening. It's lovely to see you all. So thank you. So I am Karen Sutton. I am the UK's first widow coach. And what does that mean? Essentially, I'm a grief and loss coach, but I specialise in supporting widows because that's my story. But I also help other people going through different losses because grief isn't always just about death. And it's certainly not always just about the death of a partner either. So my story, briefly, for those of you that don't know who I am, back in September 2016, my husband went out on a bike ride and he had a heart attack and didn't come home. We had two children and they were 9 and 5 at the time. And as you can imagine, was just thrown into a life I didn't recognize, didn't understand. We're just not equipped to deal with these things, are we, in life? So it had obviously a kind of devastating effect on our lives. And that has kind of sent me down a path which has led me to this point, because I've just become so passionate about wanting to help other people going through their own losses in life, work through them, because it's possible, you know. And at the beginning, when something devastating happens in life, it feels like that's the end. It feels like that's permanent, and life is never going to be good again. There's that whole like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get through this? And we can work through it. We can find a more positive way through life's challenges. And that's what I like to help people to do. And, you know, as much as my loss was the most devastating and heartbreaking thing that has ever happened to me, it has also been the most transformative and empowering thing that has ever happened to me. And if somebody had told me that in the early days, I would never have believed them. But it really has taken me on a journey of self-discovery, to the point where I now live a life where I feel far more fulfilled and at peace than I ever have done before, because I've kind of done the work on me, which I hadn't ever done before. You don't, do you? You go to school, you get a job, you meet someone, you get married, you have some kids, and you kind of get on the hamster wheel of life without ever really thinking, who am I? What do I want? Where am I heading? What am I working towards here? And sometimes things happen to us in life where it feels like it's the end and we're powerless. But actually there's a lot we can do to help ourselves claw back that power and create something amazing after something devastating. And you know, these events, these tragedies in life, you know, whether it's the loss of a person, the loss of a relationship, financial loss, home loss, you know, they are absolutely devastating. But they also teach us a lot about ourselves. They reveal parts of us that we never knew existed, because we've never needed to draw on those resources before. We've just always done what we've always done. And actually, when something big happens to us in life, all of a sudden we've got to dig that little bit deeper to figure out how we're going to get through it. So I kind of just wanted to talk a little bit about grief. Obviously, that's what I do. And kind of dispel some of the myths around it, really, because a lot of people will think that grief just relates to the loss of a loved one. And it's not. You know, grief comes in many forms. Throughout your lives, you would have grieved a lot of losses. And like I say, that could be a relationship loss. It could be the loss of someone you love through death, pet loss, home loss, career loss, financial loss, loss of identity, you know, loss of a future that you thought you were going to have that you no longer have. There's so many things that we believe that we have that are our future. And then events happen and we realize they are no longer our future. And that's really hard for us to fathom. And there is that loss of identity that comes up in there. Who am I? Where do I fit in this anymore? What's going to happen to me? What's life going to look like moving forward? Am I a good enough parent on my own? A big question that we ask ourselves, and we doubt our ability. We just think, I can't do this. I can't do this on my own. I'm never ever going to be good enough. You know, that parental, that co-parenting, you know, when we have kids, for the most part, we normally want to do it with somebody that we love. And sometimes that's taken away from us for different reasons. And they are all different types of grief and loss. And it's learning to name it as that, because we can give ourselves a really hard time. You know, unless somebody has died, like, how can I claim to be grieving? But you can. And we have to work through that grief. It's not something that will just sort itself out. You know, it does take work on our part. It's not a problem to be fixed or solved. And I think as a society, you know, when somebody comes to us with a problem, we want to fix it, don't we? We want to find a solution. We want to find a way forward. We've always got ideas of what somebody can do to help themselves through it. And we really struggle with grief, you know, whether it's us as the griever, or that those around us trying to support us through something in life. People want to find answers. They want to fix your problems, and they can't. It's about having your pain witnessed so that you feel heard, feel loved and supported. And that's hard because people don't listen very well. When you're talking to someone, you'll notice that whilst they're listening to you talking, what they're thinking about is their response. You know, like, what can I say? What can I do? And you know, they're not actually hearing what you're saying or sitting with you in that moment. And that's what we need. We just want someone to sit alongside us and kind of go, do you know what? Yeah, shit. It is shit. And you know, and I'm sorry you're going through this. I'm here for you, and I will help you figure it out, whatever you need me to do. But we're not so good at doing that. And I feel that it's partly our responsibility to help guide others in helping us, because people don't know how to deal with devastating losses in life, with, you know, people's feelings and emotions, with loss in general, whatever that loss is. People don't know how to be around it. They're scared of it. They're scared that they might say something wrong. They're scared that they'll say something to upset you. They'll trigger something within you that you'll get annoyed with them and snap. And yeah, those things might be true, but it's having that kind of open dialogue with somebody and being really honest about, you know, what's showing up for you, what you feel you need from them, and how they can support you through what you're going through. Because people just, they don't get it. And I think we need to help them to do that. So we need to have a space where we can express our feelings, a safe space, you know, somewhere we're not going to feel judged or criticized for how we're feeling. Somebody that will actually listen to what we're going through, what's going on for us, without we're trying to kind of find solutions to problems. Guilt is huge, absolutely huge, for so many reasons. And it's often something that we place on ourselves. And this is where we add suffering to our discomfort already, you know, with the thoughts that we have, the beliefs that we have, the stories that we tell ourselves, all the things that we think we should have done that we didn't do, or that we didn't do well enough, we should have said that we didn't say, or that we did say and we shouldn't have said. It's relentless, isn't it? It goes on. And you know, it's kind of working through that guilt. Again, finding a safe space to speak about it. And it's difficult again, isn't it? Because whenever you feel guilty about something and you talk to someone about your guilt, they'll dismiss it. They'll kind of say, don't be silly, you don't need to feel guilty about that. To you, it's real, it's valid. It's like, this is heavy. This it can be quite crushing. But people don't see it. because they're looking at it from an outside point of view, and they don't get it. They're like, of course you don't need to feel guilty, but you do, you carry it, and you need to work through it. So again, we need to find a way of working through the guilt and release the burden of it, change the narrative in our head. We've got to work through our old wounds. Now, like I said before, you have been through many losses in your life already. Now, if you have losses that are unresolved from your past, they will affect how you are dealing with any current loss that you are going through. So grief will bring up old wounds for you. So sometimes it's very helpful to go back and look at previous losses, just to look at what that's bringing up for you. Does it need tending to? Is it affecting how you're feeling in what you're going through now? Because it does, it all has a huge impact on us. Learning to integrate the love and the pain. You know, sometimes when we're hurting so much and we're going through something so big, it's hard to focus on the love and bring in new love and new life. Again, guilt comes into it, doesn't it? And it's also learning that we can be happy and sad in any one given moment. You know, the duality of grief. We can't spend our whole time in the pain of our loss. And equally, we can't spend our whole time distracting ourselves from it either. It's about finding a balance of what works, you know, spending some time in the loss, acknowledging what's going on for you, working through those feelings and emotions, but also some time restoring your new life, your new normal. Like, how's that going to work? Who are you in that new life? Where do you fit? What do you want from it? You know, what has happened to you has had a profound effect on you and your life. You will feel very differently about different things. What used to bring you joy may not anymore. And it's kind of figuring out what works for you in this new life. And we have to spend time working through that. Working through our losses and our grief, it's not just about our mental health. And I think we can be very focused on our mental health, because it is important. It is really important, and it's a huge factor in it. But it's also about our physical health, our emotional health, and our spiritual health. You know, some people have a belief, a religion, a spiritual guide that might change as well through whatever you've been going through. But all of those factors need to be taken into account. We can't just focus on the mind. We have to focus on the body as well. You know, what are you consuming? And as much as that's food, you know, drink, alcohol, good food, bad food, what are you consuming for your mind? What are you reading? What are you watching? Who are you spending your time with? Are they serving you? Does it work for you? You nourishing your body? And it's really important to look at all those different factors of your life, because they will all have an impact on how you feel. And I know it can feel like a lot to think about and a lot to take on, but if we can look after all those areas, we will find a much better way, a much more positive way through what we're going through. There's also no timeline. I think we get very caught up on how long it should take for us to get over something, and when we should be living our new life and living our best life. And I can't talk to somebody about that anymore because it's been 6 months, or it's been a year, or it's been 2 years. Whatever you believe that timeline to be, it doesn't exist. There isn't one. We will all do our grieving for whatever loss we've had in our own unique way, because we are unique. There isn't anyone else on this planet that is exactly the same as you. Even if you have a twin, you will deal with things very differently. And that's okay. There's no right or wrong. And I think this is where it's difficult for people, because we almost want to be given a book, don't we? Some guidelines. to tell us what to do, what's the next best step, how do I get through this, and where's the end point, when will I get to the healing so that I feel better, I can put this behind me and I can just get on with my life. That's not how it works. We have to learn to work our way through it, to carry it more lightly, because it is going to stay with us for the rest of our lives. But that doesn't mean it has to stay with us as pain. We are able to work our way through it so that we feel lighter, that we can look back and we can remember with more love than pain. It doesn't have to define you for the rest of your life. It will shape you. It will become a part of you and who you are in your new life. But it doesn't always have to be painful and heavy. There will be moments where it feels more painful than others, of course. Things will trigger it as you go through your life. But again, it's learning how to deal with that emotion, that pain that's coming up for you. It's learning not to label things as good or bad, positive or negative. We're terrible. I mean, how many of you kind of like, you get a feeling and then you berate yourself for it? Oh, I shouldn't be feeling that. That's really negative. That's really bad. That's a terrible feeling. It's not. Everything that you feel is valid. Everything that you feel or that you think is allowed. It's just learning how you respond to that. Because that's what matters. It's your response. And it can feel like you have very little in your control, but you actually do. You have choices. You have things that you can do that will allow you to claw back that control. It's not easy. I'm not saying any of it is easy. I'm not saying any of it is quick, but we are able to do it. And it's remembering as well, you know, a lot of people say time heals all wounds. Yeah, okay. You know, a scratch on the skin, a scar, that will heal in time. But wounds of the heart, time alone will not heal it. It's what you do with the time that you have that matters. And that is your choice. And we all have a choice in that. And I think because it hurts, because it's painful, because we live in a society that doesn't understand how to deal with these things or how to talk about them, it's very easy to push it to one side, box it up, put it away. Let's not talk about it. It'll sort itself out. I'll be okay. You know, that typical British stiff upper lip. Let's just get on with it. Let's go back to work. Let's get on as normal. It'll be fine. It doesn't really work. And that's when we end up carrying things for a long time, for a lot longer than we need to, very heavily. So just think about, you know, what are you doing with the time that you have, the feelings that are showing up for you? Are you using it to help yourself work through the pain that you have? Or are you trying to avoid it? Because naturally you're going to want to. That's what we're wired for, isn't it? To avoid danger, fear, pain, all that kind of stuff, because it's uncomfortable. So we want to avoid it. And instinctively, that's what our bodies are kind of wired for. So to lean into it and try and work our way through it is kind of going against the grain a little bit for us. But it is really, really important. We judge and we criticize ourselves a hell of a lot. You know, as I said before, we're always thinking about what we should be doing, what we didn't do. And there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of criticism. We're not at all kind to ourselves. And it's creating that awareness around your thoughts, what's going on for you. What are you thinking? What are you saying to yourself? Why are you giving yourself such a hard time? What are you expecting of yourself? Is it fair? Is it realistic? And half the time it's not. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be perfect, to show up in all areas of our life perfectly. And there's no such thing as perfect, is there? It doesn't exist. No one is perfect. No one has the perfect life. No one deals with things in the perfect way. So it's learning to give yourself a little bit more grace, a lot more kindness and compassion, and really, really starting to sort of understand what's going on in your head. Also, you know what you need. It's within you. You naturally want to survive what you're going through. Your brain wants you to get to a point where you can enjoy life again, where you can feel good about yourself. And if you listen to your body and what it's saying to you, you will figure that out. But again, we don't listen. We push through. We ignore it. We carry on. Our minds just override everything that our body's telling it to do, guiding it to do. Equally, we don't stop for long enough to even listen. We're so busy. We are just so busy all the time. It's almost like we have to justify every single second of our day. We can't possibly say to somebody, I didn't do anything yesterday, because we feel like we're being lazy. We're then worried about the judgment that's going to be cast on us for being that person. And we really do, I talk about it so much. We have to find time for stillness, to slow down, because it's in those moments that you will find a lot of your answers. But when you're busy all the time and you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, you don't ever get to figure out who you are, what you need, what exactly is going on for you, what feels good, what doesn't feel so good. You don't have to be doing something all of the time. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is do nothing. It's part of the work. We need to find time to rest, to restore, to reconnect with ourselves. When you've been through something big in life, we don't know a lot about ourselves anymore. It leaves us with a lot of big questions. We cannot heal in isolation. It's a big one. And I think sometimes we feel like we have to do it all by ourselves. And I very much talk about taking responsibility for our healing, because we are responsible for our healing. And there's a quote, and I love this quote: your wound is probably not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. And it's so true. But just because it's our responsibility, that doesn't mean we have to do it on our own. We can reach out for help. We can ask others for guidance and support. In fact, it's necessary. When you go back and you look back through the ages, we used to live in communities, didn't we, with families and friends, and we all supported each other. We brought up children together. They worked as a team. But now we live quite isolated lives. We often live away from family and friends. People are, again, so busy. People are so busy. We don't ask anyone for any help or support. We feel weak if we dare ask for any help or support. But actually, it takes a lot of strength and courage to reach out and ask someone for help. And the people that you're asking for help like it, because they don't know how to help you unless you guide them. So it's really important that we find our people that love us, that nurture us, that make us feel safe. You'll know who they are. Not everyone around you is going to support you in the way that you'd like. Some will show up that you really didn't expect to, and some that you expect to won't do what you think they're going to do. But it's leaning into the people that are showing up, letting them in. People want to help people. And it's remembering, isn't it? When you've known somebody historically that's been going through a hard time, you want to help them. And if they come to you and ask for something specifically, you'll do it. But you often don't know what need is. So, find your support network. lean on it, be honest with them, communicate with them. People don't know. We get very frustrated that people don't understand us, that they assume we're getting on okay, that just because I look all right, they think I am okay when you're not, because you can't see what's going on the inside, can you? But do you tell people how you're feeling? Like, really tell people? You know, when somebody says to you, how you doing? You know, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm okay, bit of a rubbish day, but it's all right, it'll be okay. And we kind of brush over it. We never really kind of go, do you know what? I am actually really struggling. I feel really low. I'm tired. I feel isolated. I'd really appreciate some support in whatever way that would look like for you. But if we don't tell them, they're not going to know. They're not mind readers. And if they haven't been in your situation, they haven't got a clue. So again, it's that sort of taking responsibility and helping others to help us, because it does help us in the long run. And just recognize the choices that you're making. You make a lot of choices every single day. Are those choices serving you? Are they really helping you get to a better place in your grieving journey? What other options do you have? How can you do it differently? Because there is other ways. It's finding them. So they're just kind of 6 pointers on grief and sort of dispelling some of the myths around grief. It is difficult, and I think however we lose someone, it's continuing those bonds with them, because they've died, the love hasn't died, and it's learning how to express that love, show that love, I suppose, moving forwards and taking them forwards with you. But it's, you know, it's not easy. It's not easy at all for people to deal with their losses, when the world has been going absolutely crazy.